Hello and happy Christmas to everyone out there watching.
Bar
No,
humbug.
bar humbug. No. Yes. uh, Happy Christmas to everyone, first of all. Happy solstice. I think it still qualifies as a solstice. There we go.
Yeah, think
Let's go for
so.
that. Welcome to the Occult Academy, episode 3 with myself, Nathan Lucius, and my partner in crime, Steve James.
Yo,
Yo, who has partied too high and hard and now is crashing down into the Christmas holidays and stuff like that. Right. So, okay. Just to give an introduction to what we're going to talk about tonight before we get into it. So, recently, 17th, I think it was what, 3 days ago now? Good God, I forgot that
yeah,
4 days ago. 4 days ago, we had I think, quite successful seminar. It was a Christmas themed occult seminar up in Seaton, Delaval, with myself, Nathan Lucius, Steve James, and our very good friend Mark Devlin. Not Devlin. I'd started again, but I'm not going to. Mark Devlin, who I'm sure that the listeners are very familiar with anyway. I think we had a decent turnout, Steve, to be fair.
yeah, I think we did. I
Um,
think there was, from what I recall, there was some good feedback. I think
yeah,
hopefully people enjoyed the day and got something out of it.
yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
I'd mark that as a success. I'm going to mark it
um,
actually as a Saturnalia success.
Saturnalia success. Well, we had lots of interesting wordplay on that day, didn't we? We had a heating device which was Devil 3000, and it was just
Yeah,
it was like a jet engine. I don't know what the hell was going on with that. And it was in Seaton Delaval, which is the place that we got. Basically, it was the option that was available to us at the time. But obviously, it sounds
mm,
Satan and Devil. And then you had, obviously myself, Nathan Lucius, Satanic Steve, and Mark Devlin. I've done it again. Why, God, bloody hell! I haven't even been drinking tonight. I've got no excuses. So it was pointed out to us that there was a few interesting bits of wordplay going in, and it took place on what was officially, or what would have been officially in the Roman calendar, the opening day of Saturnalia, which was the 17th of December. All of which genuinely coincidental. So there was a few things. So before anyone accuses us of going down the satanic route, we're not. It was genuinely, it was the room that we could get, the venue that we could get on the date that we could get it, and three awesome speakers. I'm not apologising for that bit. So ta-da. But anyway,
yeah.
all that being said, I think we have had a lot of good feedback from it. I don't think we've had any negative feedback, have we?
No, not to my knowledge. I mean, obviously, we'll take negative criticisms on the chin. Um, and if there's things we can do to improve upon what we try to provide in terms of education, we'll certainly look into it. But
Yeah,
um, there was a gentleman drove down from Scotland. There was
yeah,
a young lady who drove all the way from Manchester, and
yeah,
I believe there was other people from the borders of Scotland as well. So
yeah,
if any of them are listening in, any of the attendees of that event, a big, massive thank you indeed for your kind appreciation and
yeah.
support for that particular event. And hopefully, I don't know about yourself, Nathan, but hopefully we'll have more events, seminars, perhaps a natural law conference in
Ooh, I like the
future.
sound of that. I
Yeah,
like the sound of that. Yeah, I'm sure well, hopefully the next 12 months, there'll be lots of opportunities to put many events on in many locations. Hopefully, I'd like to think more population-centric locations where we can,
yeah,
hopefully build on the numbers and get a few more people to attend in, bigger numbers as we go along. And so hopefully the members of Occult Academy can join us and come along for that. Um, yeah. So
there was a gentleman and his wife or partner and friend came to the event, Mark. So a shout out to Mark
yeah,
from the Coop Files. So that is one recommendation I'd like to make to our listening audience. The Coop Files, Coop spelled COOP. The
as in
Coop
chicken coop.
Files,
Yeah.
yeah, as in a chicken coop. Mark is also from the Northeast. He attended our event and a very interesting fellow indeed. He talks exclusively about natural law and about psychology on his rather educational channel, which is excellent. So I would highly recommend that. The Coop Files. Please check
Yeah.
it out. Give him some support. He needs more, more views, more subscribers. Get that man's work out there.
Well, to be fair to the lad, I mean, he did come all the way and he seemed to really enjoy the conference. So I embarrassed him a few times. Well, he's a minor celebrity now, isn't he? So we had to embarrass him a little bit. But hopefully we can get him on here with us at some point.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So all in all, I think everything seemed to go well. So I'm going to stop yapping now, Steve, temporarily, and so we are going to do I guess, a more compact, more flexible version of our presentation here tonight.
Hmm.
Um, Again, maybe not in as much depth as we went to, but trying to get a
Yeah.
broader scapegoat, going for that and see if we can cover a lot of the areas that we were discussing in the seminar, and see if we can educate anybody who's interested in Christmas, Saturnalia, the occult, magic festivals and feast days and things like that. Let's see where we go with that as well.
Hmm.
Let's not forget the solstice as well. So, Steve,
Hmm.
have you got your presentation at hand?
I have. Should
Would you
I?
like to? Yeah, let's go for that. Let's see if we can get it shared
Should I
across the.
share it on the screen?
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's go for that.
Okay, mate. Give me a second. Let's see. 1 second.
Yeah, that's all right. I like your jumper. I mean, is that a Christmas jumper or just a winter jumper?
Um, I think it's rather seasonal. That's kind of why I wore it. But I might have to take it off shortly. It's roasting.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Well, I've had to take my Santa-esque robes off because it is a bit it's a bit warm in here actually. So it
Mm,
takes ages to warm up, and then it's too warm, and then it drops suddenly as well when the heating goes off. It drops quite suddenly, and then we're
yeah. Right.
left frozen. Yeah.
Let's see. See if this works.
Uh,
What's
there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
yeah.
we're up and
Okay. I'll
running.
tell you what. I'll just put it on my presentation slides.
Yeah,
Does that come up?
that's come up
All
perfectly.
right. You know who that handsome fellow is? And you're probably
Are
going to
we on
say,
about the handsome fella in the middle who's going to trigger people to death, or the handsome fella on the right of the screen, which is probably the left of the screen when it goes live? Don't ask. Uh,
exactly.
why
Well,
don't you introduce us to him?
the good-looking one is obviously me. Yeah.
Yeah,
But the guy in the
fair
center
enough.
of the screen is Alistair Crowley. So that's going to trigger a load of people. But
Well, shall we balance it out before it gets to that? So he claimed to
yeah,
be the wickedest man in the world. So there's that. We're not. We're just again, so that we don't trigger too many people. We're not condoning this. We are simply looking at information. We're looking at the occult. We're looking at the history of Christmas and everything that ties into that. We're not advocating for anything evil, dark, satanic, or anything else like that at all. This is simply educational purposes to see if we can shine a bit of light on the darkness and give you the history behind Christmas and everything
exactly.
that's linked into that. How about that?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this presentation, you could say, comes with a warning. I'm going to put that up next. I think that's my next slide. Yeah.
Ooh, all right then. I'm
So
going to
if
let
there's,
you go. I'm going to sit back for once. I'm going to.
well, I'm not
Anyway.
necessarily going to read all of this out, but obviously, if there's any kids in the room and we're talking about Christmas and we're maybe trying to uncover some truths about Christmas, you may not want your kids to hear, especially when it's talking about Mr. Claus, Santa
Mm.
Claus, because he doesn't exist.
Oh, you're supposed to give the caveat before you destroy it for them. So
Oops, sorry,
I
kids.
was going to say we'll give you like a minute fair warning to stop watching, and you've ruined it again. You've ruined Christmas,
Oh
Steve.
dear,
Can't believe you've just done that.
it's not the first time.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
Usually, I've had a few ruined Christmases. Usually, it's myself that ruins them as well. So I've got no defense. So,
yeah. I wonder if that's why they call me the Grinch.
well, speaking of which, would you like to see my festive themed slippers?
Come on then, throw them on.
It's Mr. Grinch. It's very hot. Uh, what's it-
Oh, they're cozy slippers.
they're very, very warm. Yeah, they're very cozy. Except the
Yeah.
when you're walking around, the left slipper sounds like it's farting with every step. So it's like, so not entirely sure what's happened there. So
Well, do you
yeah,
know what? We're going to talk a little bit about the occult, and
nice.
just as you've said, we have put a little bit of a warning on there.
Yeah,
But let's have a look what the word occult means, and I'm sure most of our listening audience will have done this to death, so they'll probably be all over this. But what does it mean by definition? The word itself means hidden. It means hidden, and it relates to knowledge, hidden knowledge. often in relation to mystical and supernatural forces, magical powers, practices, or phenomena. And as you can see in the white on my left-hand side, the occult is neither good or evil. Good or evil is a choice that we make as human beings, whether you know about occult knowledge or not. And this is, however, knowing about occult knowledge helps us further understand what evil is all about and how we can be deceived by its many kind of distractions and fall for its trappings. So if we understand hidden knowledge, we can therefore uncover evil and not fall victim to it. So I think that's a kind of a key takeaway from, again, from understanding what the occult is
Hmm.
about.
Can I make a add to that a little bit? So one of the questions we got during the seminar was about whether Christmas and Santa and all of that, whether it was evil and whether the English language was evil, and should we stop using it and should we stop, listening to our favorite music because it's got satanic undertones or hidden messages embedded within it or whatever. And so just to add to what you've just said there about the occult being neither good nor evil, I mean, all it is literally knowledge that's been hidden from us. And usually the people hiding that knowledge from us is ourselves because people just refuse to look into it. I suspect a lot of the time they're afraid to look into it. And so they themselves are, it's self-censorship in a way. But again, the question came up about languages and things like that, and so I was asked for what's the solution then? Do we make a whole new language? Do we, stop using certain words and certain songs and stuff? No.
Mm.
Just to add to that, information, knowledge, truth is exactly what it is. It's information, knowledge, and truth. Okay, some of it can be negative, some of it can be quite dark, but information is information, knowledge is knowledge, and truth is truth. It is that which has been and that which is, right? So if you want to look at it in simple terms, it is exactly that. It's that which has occurred and that which is occurring now. And the only thing that would make knowledge evil or language evil or the occult evil is the way that it's used, what the intention behind that. If you want to uh, use it for nefarious purposes, then yeah, of course you can do that. But you can do that with anything. It's like I demonstrated at the seminar. I could pick up a table and throw it at somebody, or I could put my laptop on it. I could put a drink on it. I could use it to provide food, and like a feast table. It doesn't. The object in and of itself is not evil, but the intention behind it, the actions and behaviors behind it, that's what makes it evil. So. I just wanted to put a caveat on there because it was one of those questions. It was like, well, no, it's the defense against that is being aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
If you think that the songs and words and knowledge and information is being used against you, it's being weaponized against you for evil or nefarious, malevolent purposes, what's the solution to it? Is the solution to hide it away and ignore it? Because I think that would actually create a hell of a lot more problems than it would solve. And when it does, ignorance never solves anything. It just creates more problems. And so my advice was be aware of it. Just be aware of it. That's your defense. That's your first line of defense against anything that's considered the dark arts or whatever else you'd like to consider it. Be aware of it.
Yeah, yeah.
And you can't be aware of it unless you're willing to look into it. And that's all we're doing here. That's it. So I'm going to shut up, but just
No,
want to put that little caveat in because that came up as a question. So
yeah, that's an excellent point. I think that's definitely
but
something we need to expose more.
yeah.
Well, let's look at the occult in more detail. So, the occult is a body of knowledge that helps to shed light upon the human mind and universal laws. So, as I mentioned in my presentation on the 17th, you've got to think of it like a secret gift for adults, a gift that can never be opened by spiritual children. So, really, we need to up our spiritual game as the human race, as members of this realm. We need to understand how it works by understanding the two key components, which is the human mind, which is, I'm just going to put this up. The human mind is the microcosm, and the macrocosm, as I've termed it here, the big box, little box. The macrocosm unwraps universal laws. So we talk exclusively about natural law. Natural law, of course, is the universal laws that is unchanging and it affects everybody in the universe. So if we understand these laws and we understand how our human mind works, then we will stand ourselves in better stead for navigating this crazy clown world planet.
Perfect.
Right, I'll move on. In fact, I'm going to skip through some of these things, but I am going to focus on one thing here. The word Christmas, you can probably see it there in
Yeah.
red, and be equated to what's known as the dismissal of Christ, or perhaps even the death of Christ. So Christ Mass, the death of Christ, which is quite, it's almost like an oppositional theme, isn't it? Because we associate the Christmas period with the birth of Christ, but the word itself means the death of Christ. So I think it's kind of important to kind of get a grasp on that. One
So,
thing I
so
will mention.
no,
Yeah,
sorry,
go
just
on.
so go back to the previous slide because I got a question about that the other day and I never voiced it because I didn't want to interrupt too much.
Yeah.
Obviously Christmas, if you break it up, it's Christ Mass. So
Mhm.
Mass, are we saying that Mass is the bit that means death?
In some respects, I mean, I don't think it's a perfect translation, so to speak, but
Right.
it's kind of associated with that, isn't it?
I mean,
But
it could, yeah, I mean, it could be. I mean, again, if you look at Christmas and Easter, it's both the death and the birth ritual, isn't it? It's from depending on which particular standpoint you're looking at it from. So, um, yeah, effectively. So,
yeah, I
yeah.
mean,
Anyway, so I'll let
play
you
on
go. No, I
words,
just
so to
wanted to
speak.
ask about that. It was just, yeah. Anyway,
Yeah, I know worries. Um, okay, so I haven't went massively into the roots of Christianity. I mean, I think these are certainly things that we should be aware of and certainly perhaps address on future episodes. The Council of Nicaea,
absolutely.
for example, because apart from anything else, it is an interesting history and a delve into Roman society. But speaking of which, this is Emperor Constantine allegedly, and you can already see. I mean, this is obviously a modern day depiction, but you can already see the sun symbolism behind Constantine's head there.
Yep.
And of course, this is what Christ, what we associate Jesus Christ with, is the sun. Christianity is a sun worshiping cult. But moving on from that, we
Actually,
can,
before you do, just
yeah,
just a word. So it's something else I came across, and I wanted to do this in the seminar again, but I never got around to this bit. You see on his chest there, where you've got this funny looking symbol.
mm-hmm.
So on Constantine's chest, right? So when we shorten the word Christmas to Xmas, do you know where that comes from?
I'd imagine it's got something to do with the Christian cross. But
It has, but it's the original version of it's the original Roman version of that. So uh, the Greek letters that are used to symbolize Christ is chi and rho. So chi rho, which is it's like an
mm-hmm.
X and a P. So
Mm-hmm.
and when you so the Romans used this as a symbol for about 200 years, I think, and Constantine used it after following the Battle of Milvian Bridge when he fought against a fellow emperor rival. And he famously said, "In this sign you will conquer," and he was victorious from the battle. Well, the sign was the sun, and it was also there was a lot of Christians in the empire at that point. So it got merged with the Chi Rho, which is an X and a P. And so the first part of that, the chi, is which
Mm-hmm.
is the X, is it's therefore used in Christmas. So the Xmas is the like Christ, but shortened to an X, which is from the
Right.
Greek letter chi. I just
All
I
right.
just I just figured I'd pop that in there because obviously with it being on the screen, if anyone's not familiar with that, the idea is to bring knowledge to people. And again, I'm still learning stuff. I only learned this a couple of weeks ago myself, and I thought, oh right, okay, that answers that one. So I just
Well,
want to pop that in there. So
brilliant. I mean, I've never heard that before, so that's an interesting origin.
there you go.
Brilliant.
See, I
Um,
can still be useful, Steve.
Hey, well, I suppose a key takeaway from this slide in particular is just the fact that um, the merging of church and state was established really, and as it says in the green print, to maintain a master-slave relationship. And this is what we get when we put all our hopes and dreams into associations and organizations such as government, amongst others. But the opposite of anarchy, as it says here, is covert slavery established by a religious death cult known as statism. So not Satanism, statism. And
Hmm.
statism is the belief in authority. And I've also highlighted the word anarchy here because if we do not have this, or we do not want a master-slave relationship, i.e. we want freedom, we have to understand the opposite of that, which is essentially anarchy. Now, this gets a real lot of bad press, as you well know, and I'm not going to go massively into it, but just look at the word itself. The word means no masters. And when we have no masters, we have no slaves. So that should hopefully iron out how we can establish a little bit of freedom in society going forward in the future. Right, this might be a little bit of a controversial slide for some of our listeners. Perhaps I might curtail some of the words I'm using on this simply for YouTube. I don't know if it'll just meet with the censorship
Yeah, it's
requirements.
just err on the side of caution still, just a
Yeah.
little bit. Yeah.
So I'll just let viewers read that for themselves. This is gifts from the government.
Oh, I'm sure you can read that out.
You think?
Yeah.
So
Well, I
what
mean,
have the
it's a
government?
yeah. Go on. I mean, why not?
Well, what have the government given us recently? Well, they've given us Moderna, myofasciitis, AstraZeneca, and last but not least is the 6-foot wooden Boxford injections. So that's a Merry Christmas from the government. Ho ho ho.
We can go into that as well if you like. Ho ho ho. Can I give a little?
Oh, that comes on a further slide if you want.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Let's go into it in the further slide. I can wait for that one. Well, it was
All right,
interesting.
excellent.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Carry on, mate.
Well, here's an interesting point, and I mean, again, I'm not going massively into synchromysticism as such, but we've mentioned the winter solstice, which is today, effectively the
Yeah.
21st of December. On that date in 2020, or was it 2021? I can't remember. Well, I put 2020 on the slide, but this guy, President Biden, got his Christmas arm spear at exactly 3:22 p.m. Now, if anyone was to YouTube and watch some, recorded highlights of this particular newsworthy event, exactly on the turn of the hand to 3:22 was when the arm spear was injected, which I think is a stunning piece of synchronistic um, coincidental.
Coincidence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some people would be thinking, well, what's the relevance of that number? And
Mm.
just for those people, if they're not aware, well, that equates to a couple of things, one of which is a secret society, a notorious one, which, as you can probably guess, was frequented by two well-known US presidents. There was actually three presidential members, I should add. One was William Taft. But 322, it's known as Lodge 322, Skull and Bones, or AKA the Brotherhood of Death, which is, but this number is massively important because, as you probably aware, Nathan, it equates to a particular point of time, March the 22nd, i.e. the third month, the
Yeah.
22nd day, which is also known as the satanic season of sacrifice.
Lovely, isn't it? Just incidentally, with the whole month of March, it was so I know a fair bit about Roman history. It was always an interest area of mine. That was always considered the beginning of the season of war, or this. So that's when the soldiers would literally they'd gather at the Campus Martius. So March. Yeah, Mars, basically, the camp of Mars. But this is where we get the month of March from. So it's linked in. It's directly linked into the wording of Mars,
Yeah.
war, March, and then obviously the soldiers would march off to battle. So one of the reasons that it is the season of sacrifice is because that was when the soldiers would be preparing to march off into a war zone or to prepare for that particular season, and that's I suspect where that comes from. Again, it might go back further than Rome. It's just,
Mm.
but we have the Roman version of that that's come down to us. So, just
Yeah.
as a Yeah.
Well,
So
interestingly, this is probably the time of year that features quite significantly in modern day examples of war. And I mean, one such is the US invasion of Libya, which was the I mean, it's essentially the spring equinox,
yeah,
from March the 19th to through the 23rd. It's one of those dates. But generally, the 22nd is considered the satanic season of sacrifice. Um, I believe it's the 81st day as well, which again, that's a number of significance. I mean, I might be incorrect with that, but I'll check that out. But what does that equate to? We've heard of March the 22nd, Lodge 322, but we've also got this little number represents the alchemical transformation or transmutation from lead to gold.
well,
Again,
that's
this is
curious, isn't it?
yeah. So this is quite a big theme in alchemy. So alchemy is often considered how to change base metals from lead to turn it into gold, but it actually relates to the human mind, to transform the mind from something which is dense but malleable, which is what lead is, through to the substance of gold, which is precious and everlasting. And if we look at the periodic table, those four increments from lead to gold, 82 to 79, if we add those numbers up, we get the number 322, which is, I think, is an awesome piece of synchromysticism.
Just a bit. I mean, again, this is the Occult Academy. This is what we to explore and to go into. And I mean, that's a brilliant find. I don't know whether you found that. Like how did you come across that?
I don't remember, in all honesty.
Well, either way, it's a good find, mate. I mean, again, that was the whole theme of alchemy, wasn't it? It was
Yeah.
transmuting your lower energies into your highest energy, which is basically lead, which is a heavy, uh, dark metal, into gold, which was enlightenment, the freeing of the spirit. Yeah, it's brilliant. I love the way
Yeah.
that
I
is
mean,
just.
we can explore, even if we looked at Australia, for example. Well, Australia is known to be a sunny place. AU is Australia. Australia is also Oz, as in the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
But gold is God. And if we talk about Christmas, well, we'll probably find out a little bit more for the viewers who aren't aware. Uh, Christianity is a sun worshipping cult, but
Well, you just
these,
you've just alienated our entire Christian audience there. Just can I add another caveat here? Because I
yeah,
did go quite sarky at Christianity the other day. So
yeah,
I know I do hit at Christianity quite a bit, but it's not. I genuinely don't have a problem with a religion as long as people understand the underlying connotations of it. If you understand what you're worshiping, where it comes from, the history behind it, if you've got an understanding of that and you wish to practice that and you're not doing any harm, I've got no problem with that. But I do find that certain people are easily offended when you present them. Again, this is all we're doing here is looking at information and knowledge, and we're just bringing it to light. That's all we're doing. And you can guarantee there's going to be a few Christians out there that are going to be like, no, well, that's not true. It's like, well, it clearly is true because, we have the research to back that. We have the knowledge that backs that. This is accepted wisdom. This isn't just something that we think sounds good, that we've just conjured up out of nowhere and said, oh, well, Christians are wrong because of that, that, and that. No, no, this is behind Christianity. In fact, I would say that things like alchemy, the stuff that we're going into, the whole idea of sun worship, it's as old as it gets. It is literally the oldest. Again, it's like the theme of my presentation was the greatest story ever never told. It's also the oldest story ever told because it is about the sun and the stars, etc., etc. It's always been there, and it's
mhm,
embedded within, I think, as far as I've come across, pretty much every single religion and tradition going. I've not found one that isn't in some way based on this knowledge, both the internal, the alchemy, and the external, which is again astrology, the astrological components of that. Um,
yeah.
so not to this is not to offend. This is simply to bring you the knowledge that we have come across that is verifiable. That is, you can research this, you can look into it. It's not actually that difficult to validate what we're presenting here, I don't think. If you know where to look.
Yeah,
If you know
exactly.
where to look. If you've got an open
Exactly.
mind and discernment, you'll be fine. So, right. Carry on, mate. Let's go for it.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you've mentioned things like esotericism, wisdom, alchemy, astrotheology. I mean, a lot of these aspects are going to be kind of revealed in this presentation, I guess. But that date, incidentally, was the date when, March the 22nd, this was when a particular lockdown occurred, or was certainly announced on TV. So I've already mentioned as well, you've mentioned about how March was used as a period to instigate war during the
Yeah.
Roman Empire. It's still used today. So, for example, March the 22nd was also when the Iraq War shock and awe campaign
Yeah, I remember that.
started. Yeah, the US invasion of Libya. There was, major terrorist incidents such as the Belgian bomb, the Westminster Bridge attack, big shooting in Colorado, all of these events happening on one very particular date. Right, moving on from that though, again, we're looking slightly into Christianity or the Christian cross. But there's one thing in astrotheological significance. We know that there is four particular seasons in the year, and interestingly, there's obviously four apexes on the Christian cross.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously, winter is the death of the sun on the solstice. So winter equates to death. It's when everything is cold, dark, miserable. And this rotates in cycles, as you well know. And that cycle is something that we can understand and determine. We can pre-plan and know what's coming in advance in terms of these seasons.
Yeah.
So obviously winter, the death of the sun, or the death of the Christ Mass. But is Christmas all about religion? Well, it's not necessarily just about religion, but a lot of people will equate it for that. But let's look at what that word religion means. It means, and I don't know if that's coming up. I don't know if we're obscuring that, so I'll just move out and
No,
talk
it's coming
about.
across all right, mate.
Is it?
Yeah, it's on the screen, all right.
Right, okay. So we can see that religion comes from the Latin term religare, which means to hold back or to bind. So, and this is something that might offend religious types. So, what I would recommend, bear in mind what Nathan said, and also have the have the have the open mind that's required to take on board information that may be difficult to assimilate. Right, we'll move swiftly past that. Nativity, incidentally, Christmas is about the nativity. We'll all be familiar with that. But as we can see with Jesus, Mary, and Joseph Simpson here, they're not the only nativity seen in the world. We've got nativity going on here with the Hindu Trinity. This is the Babylonian Trinity, and as you can see, that's Nimrod, Semiramis, and Tammuz, the mother, the father, and the child. And this same Trinity probably even predates the Egyptian Trinity and the legends of Osiris, Isis, and Horus. But if we look in Horus in more depth, there's lots of similarities between Horus and Jesus. So Horus, we might be familiar with the Eye of Horus or the Eye of the Illuminati.
Yeah.
So the Eye of Horus, of course, this is a mythological tale. The Eye of Horus relates to the pineal gland, and we can see how on the image we can see a side section of the human brain, and we can see that Eye of Horus, what do you call it? The
Thalamus.
pictograph.
The bottom left, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it's a
yeah,
cross section of the human brain, isn't it? It's the midsection of the brain, which, if you was to dissect it, what you've got is the exact symbolism that was to depict the Eye of Horus,
yeah.
which I'm going to let you. I don't want to interrupt too much, but yeah, I mean, effectively, again, this is demonstrating. I think perhaps the Egyptians may have known a thing or two,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
they weren't hindered as we are, I suspect, by as many distractions, so they had more time to investigate freely. Maybe, maybe. So
It's certainly interesting history, isn't it? The mythologies, and when you understand the um, the coincidences between Horus and Jesus, for example. I mean, there's a big long list there.
yeah,
Exactly the same as Horus, exactly the same as Jesus. But it doesn't stop there. I mean, I've seen lists of well over 100 other archetypes and mythological characters from, all across the globe who shared similar attributes. And
there's a fair amount of them out there. Can we go back and do you want to read those things out? The common, the similarities between
oh yeah,
Horus and Jesus, for example. So I mean,
yeah.
this is a good one. Yeah.
So both of them were born on the 25th of December, allegedly, from a virgin birth. They were accompanied by a star in the east, where three kings would um, pop by and present them with gifts. Both of these characters could perform miracles. They had 12 followers. They were both crucified, buried for 3 days, and then resurrected. So, how many people can claim to have those attributes?
Quite a few.
Well,
If we if
quite
we
a
if we're
few, and
talking about mythological archetypes, and
yeah.
yeah, in terms of the general human population, maybe not so many, I
Yeah,
suspect.
exactly. But curiously, you'll probably know that the sun dies for 3 days,
Hmm.
symbolically dies for 3 days before it's resurrected at Christmas. And the birth of the new sun as it passes 1 degree from its symbolic death in the sky
Well,
at the
are
winter
we
solstice.
not bang in the middle of that at the minute? I mean, obviously we're at the solstice now, so I think isn't this the first day the sun at its lowest point in the sky? Because it during the solstices and the equinoxes, it stays in that position for 3 days roughly, doesn't it? So
Yeah. Mhm.
and then obviously so for the winter festival for the solstice, it's at its lowest point. Whereas if you invert that for the summer, it's at its highest point for 3 days, and then you've got the two equinoxes either side of that. So, I mean,
Yeah.
again, it's all this is. I would say just go outside and observe it. Really, if you want to just look at it from that perspective, I mean, you can go and look at the stars and check it out for yourself in
Yeah,
many
exactly.
ways.
Yeah.
So,
Can't
yeah,
deny, the solstices and equinoxes. Um,
I know a certain group of conspiracy theorists that would perhaps try for that one. I'm not gonna offend any flat earthers or anything today. So,
yeah.
so we're doing
Good
great, aren't we?
argument. Yeah.
So yeah, whoops.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, we need to know a little bit about the ancient world, and I'll not go massively into this, but one point of call is Egypt. Egypt, of course, was originally known as Alkem or Alchem or Alkemet, which is where we, of course, get the word alchemy from. Interestingly, the first stage in the alchemical process is a blackening or nigrido, the nigrido phase. And interestingly, Alchem, the ancient name of ancient Egypt, is known or was known as the Black Land.
Yeah.
As I've put there, the land of black magic. But personally, was it black magic or was it just, a high understanding of the a high order of how the universe functions? Another place to,
I was going to
yeah,
say, can I add a little bit to that as well? Because again, I've got a load of eclectic information in here over years of reading various books. So Egypt was splitting. So again, the esoteric undertones to this, you can link this into a similarity with the Kingdom of Judah and Israel, for example. So Egypt was split into two kingdoms. So throughout most of its ancient history, you've got the part in the north, which was known as Lower Egypt, and the part in the south, which was Upper Egypt. Maybe I've got that inverted. I'm pretty sure south is Upper Egypt. So in the north, you had, as you've just said there, Kem or Kemet, which means the Black Land, which I think it's something to do with the residue in the River Nile. So when it's something to do with the soil being black.
mm,
Again, please feel free to double check or fact check me or whatever you want to refer to it as. However, the southern part of the Kingdom of Egypt was known as the Red Land, which when you have a look at the Egyptian for that, it's Dejeret, which is if you look at the way that we say that, desert, desert. So the red land and the black land. So again, if you're looking for alchemical coincidences or in our case synchronicities, yeah, this does go all the way back. And again, if you want something a little bit more modern than that, you can look at the kingdoms of Judah and Israel, which had a similar connotation. So it's the dual aspect, isn't it? It's the two kingdoms, effectively, is what we're looking at here. So there you go.
Yeah.
Just want to point that out because I found it fascinating when I came across the wording of how the Egyptians used to refer to that. It's great, and I think we get the word Egypt from Hygaptos or Hygeptus, which is the city of the sun.
Mm.
And it'll come back.
Mm.
It went under a different name as well. But anyway, it was
Yeah,
one
okay,
of its retranslations. So they changed it later to Hygaptos, which is where we get Egypt. The Al part is when the Arabs sort of like went west on their conquest across North Africa. So Al Kemet is the Black Land as opposed to
yeah.
There you go. I just want to add a lot. I mean, the
Yeah.
idea here is to bring as much knowledge as possible. And again, if we're getting anything wrong, we apologize. Let us know. We'll correct it if we are wrong. But this is just little tidbits that I've come across personally. Please feel free to fact check us and the information that we're presenting. But if you do, when you do look into this, I think you'll be quite fascinated at the connotations behind it. There's a lot of good stuff in there. Yeah,
exactly. And we're just kind of breaching the surface of the hidden world out there, aren't we, with what we're presenting here?
Yeah.
But the next port of call we're looking at is where we can see Israel, Isis, Ra, and El. But Israel, of course, this is where Jesus, the Christ, was apparently born in Bethlehem. Of course, the word Bethlehem, if we look at or break that down a little bit, Elohim in Hebrew, I believe, is known, or what it translates as is bread. So Bethlehem is a translation, or can be regarded as the house of bread.
Yes.
So moving on slightly, we're going to go.
Can I? Sorry, another tidbit of information. So there's another place that So again, I used to spend a lot of time with Jehovah's Witnesses. You learn a lot of stuff when you go to the witness hall as well. And one of the places that they worship is a place called Bethel, which is also in this same region. So the word Bethel, when you break it up between Beth and El, it translates to the house of God. So, and again, that's all part of that particular region as well. So, just thought I'd throw that.
Curious, yeah.
There you go.
We've looked at Babylon as well. So some scholars say Babylon is where we get the word Babel, and which is a derivative of the word Bible. Again, whether that's true or not, I don't know. I can't claim that. But Babylon is in the region of current day Iraq. And we can translate that word to mean the gate of God. Some will call it the Stargate. But going back to Bethlehem, house of bread, John 6, verse 35, I'm the bread of life, and whoever comes to me shall not hunger. But this is talking about not a physical hunger. This is about spiritual hunger. And we have to feed our spiritual nature with knowledge. And this is why we need to become Christed, or to understand the spiritual natures and the spiritual laws of the universe in order to settle this hunger. So that's hopefully what we're going to do today. This is why you could say Jesus fed the 5,000, but it wasn't with a loaf of bread and a fish. It was with spiritual knowledge, wisdom. Speaking of fish, something fishy about Western religion, and as you could probably tell from the various headgear adorned by, well, I mean, one of these pictures is Dagon, the fish god. He's wearing a cod on his face. And of course, the Pope there, that's another version of a fish hat.
Would it be wrong of me to say it's Cod Almighty?
I like it.
That's just when you said he's got a cod on his face. Sorry, I couldn't. I couldn't really let that one go.
Hey, I'll tell you what, it's always appropriate to pull a cracker for your jokes. So nice one, mate.
That's a cracker. I couldn't resist that. Right, I'm going to shut it. I haven't even been drinking, I swear. I mean, apart from water, maybe they put something else in there lately. I don't know. So,
I'll tell you what, I think we're slacking a bit. This is Christmas, and I've got a cup of tea. You're drinking water. I mean, last time we've practically necked a bottle of whiskey. But having said that,
yeah, we got shouted at it. Yeah,
yeah,
it's like,
I
where's my
hate to
whiskey
say it,
gone?
but I've just done 3 days worth of Saturnalia drinking, so I'm absolutely definitely not drinking anymore for a while.
Oh, well, I'm all drunk out myself at the minute. I mean, I woke up this morning with massive headache. I've got a massive
Yeah,
blood patch. I don't know whether you can see that, but yeah, this morning I'm thinking, Christ, have I been abducted by the aliens or something? They put me back wrong, you know? So I think, well, what's happened to me? And that's not even drunk. Sorry, it's not like drink induced or anything like that.
yeah.
So
I
there
think
you
we're
go.
going to get a name for ourselves as drunken alchemists or something. But
Oh, see, I like that. I do. We do need a better name for the channel, we're working on
oh,
it. Just
the
we've
drunken
got
alchemist.
the Drunken Alchemist. We've got a few names in reserve, but you know, just said
Yeah,
the Drunken Alchemists. I can go for that. Although, to be fair, if we were doing alchemy, if we were taking it seriously as a practice, we'd be failing just on the fact that it would be alcohol would be classed as a toxin,
yeah,
which would interfere with the Christ oil, the chrism oil, and the production of the purification of the mind, body, and soul. I think maybe we'd be
yeah.
failing a little bit in that
We'd be letting
respect.
the
But
side down, wouldn't we?
oh, we definitely would.
We
So,
need to
so
set
for
an example.
I'm just going to say that and we're going to do that next year, right? That's the idea.
Yeah,
Next year. Next
yeah,
year we'll do the alchemy. Today, this year, or what's left of it, we're just going to discuss it. There you go.
yeah, exactly.
Why
Yeah,
not?
let's move on that note. I would know about that. Satan. I mean, this obviously ties into my presentation. I mean, this is just a an abridged version, but obviously the objective of Satan is to counterfeit God and to defeat salvation by deceitful means in order to take the ignorant to hell. So I think a key word there is ignorance,
Hmm.
and this is something that we need to discourage and work upon. Ignorance. So if we don't know information, hidden information, another word for that could be ignorant. So if we do learn hidden information, we become less ignorant and we've got less chance of going to hell. But exploring that in a little bit more depth, the word Satan actually means adversary. So if we were to break down that word, that's what it means. And the term salvation, which we've already mentioned, that means preservation or deliverance from harm. So just as you've said, tying into alcohol, and of course we know that alcohol comes from al-ghul, which I believe is an Arabic word, or Middle Eastern language, which of course is where we can we're familiar with the word ghoul, kind of Halloween type term, and it's spirit. So we don't want bad spirits within us. So drinking alcohol, of course, is a bad spirit, you could say.
Well,
Um,
if you were to have this discussion with a Muslim, they would tell you that if you are drinking spirits, alcoholic spirits, you are allowing spirits to enter your body because you're handing over you're basically opening the doors to your mind again, mind, body, and soul. And so that's why they say that, you know, people who are drinking alcohol and they're drunk and disorderly, they've been inhabited or possessed by a jinn, which
yeah,
obviously in the Arabic traditions, the jinn were well, we would know them better, I guess, in the West as genies, you know, like from the lamp and stuff like that. But yeah, again, you have a chat with a Muslim about this, and you'll find it very fascinating. And I wouldn't even disagree with that. I mean, if you look at people's behaviors under alcoholic, yeah, I'm not about generalized, you know, consumption. I'm on about when they get really drunk and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, how else would you explain that other than somebody's being possessed?
mhm,
Apparently, as well, the psychopaths, their brains develop differently, and it has been suggested that a lot of psychopaths are conceived under the influence of alcohol or drugs,
mhm.
malevolent behaviors, so anger, jealousy, things like that. And again, it's just one of those things that I find fascinating. The more you look into this stuff, it's I think quite telling. So,
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think it's important to understand as well. Satan is not a guy with horns and a pointy tail. Satan relates to an allegory, the allegory being the adversarial mindset, which holds us back from obtaining freedom under natural law. So if we can improve upon our mind and become less ignorant as a society and learn things like natural law, for example, this magical thing that we're all after called freedom might stand a chance. Back to Aleister Crowley. But as we're moving on, there is plenty of other archetypes and mythological characters through history, through the passage of time, who are kind of related to Santa Claus himself. So this is Santa Claus and his syncretic cast of mythological archetypes, and that's just a small list. There is others. I mean, I learned one today actually on a
Yeah, go
YouTube
for it.
video. So, another one, another previous Santa Claus. Oh, what was he called?
Pringle?
Chris Kringle. Was it Kringle or something?
I'm
Crimple. Chris Kringle. I like that. KK. Chris Kringle.
I'm not.
Yeah.
So I know it's. I only know this because I used to work with a lass years ago who celebrated Kris Kringles, but and I was like, well, what's that? And she's like, oh, it's Christmas. Don't you know what that is? I think she was a Catholic.
Right.
So I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was a long time ago anyway. But I just thought I'd make a special mention here. I met somebody very special today, Steve.
Oh, go
Yeah,
on.
I met
Real,
Santa. I met Santa in person.
a
No,
real
not joking.
Santa.
It was
Wow.
real Santa, real beard.
Yeah.
I was quite impressed with
Wow.
this. Genuine, real white beard.
Hmm.
You know, interesting chap. So I took my daughter to a play area. So you'd expect a
Mm.
play area at this time of year, and Father Christmas was there, and quite
Wow.
a regal version of his usual suit. Um,
Wow.
we, when he said he was having a chat with the staff, and he said, I'm not doing so bad for a 17-year-old man." I went, 17? Sorry, it's not 17. Christ, I'll do that one again. 17,000-year-old man. I went, what? Just 17,000? 1,700? Oh, bloody hell. 1,700. And it went better than that in person. I said,
Yeah.
I said
Yeah.
it's more like 6,000. He went, well, it's based on St. Nicholas. I went, yeah, but I said it's got older traditions linked into it as well.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I see where you're going with this. Anyway, I had an interesting conversation with him. So finally met Santa Claus, and I was glad to report that he had a very open mind. I had a great conversation with him actually about the presentations that we've done, and
Yeah.
just to clarify, I did screw up the whole 17 bit of that. So just to clarify, St. Nicholas goes back 1,700 years, not 17,000 and not 17.
Yeah.
There we go. Right, I'm going to shut up, Steve. Bloody hell.
Hey, you
I
know about
think
this.
I'm better on the whiskey, mate. If I had some, I'd go and get some right now, but I've got none.
Hey, I tell you what. Yeah. No more whiskey for me for a while. Um, but look, if we'll have a quick look at the list I've made,
Hmm.
obviously these characters in white have got some relation to, what do I say, relation. They've got some shared features to Santa Claus. So we've got Jesus, Krampus, Saint Nick, Nimrod. Nimrod was the god king of Babylon, which we looked at earlier on the map. Baal, Bacchus, Mithra, Osiris, Odin, Woden, Thor, Santa Claus, and of course Santa Claus at the bottom there. So we're not going to look into all of this, but who is Santa? Santa is what we could say is the idolized demigod of Western capitalistic materialism.
All like that. I mean, people do tend to worship money, don't they? So, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, and this is another thing that we need to work on in terms of our alchemical journey, understanding some of these concepts and what holds us back from attaining spiritual wisdom. But anyway, if we look quickly at Nimrod, if we could just look at the picture alone, well, we can see he's holding a reindeer. He's carrying a tree. It looks like a rattle, to be fair. But he's carrying a tree. He's got a big beard and he's got wings, so he can obviously fly. But he was also born on the 25th of December. He's massively associated with um, evergreen trees.
Yeah.
And, that's an interesting word in itself. Speaking of the season of sacrifice, the evergreen, ever given, crashed into the Suez Canal on that period of time, the season of
Interesting.
sacrifice.
Can you,
Yeah.
sorry, just can you say that again? Because the feed got a little bit garbled when you said that. Just go back to
Yeah.
the green the ship basically.
Oh,
Sorry.
yeah. So the Evergreen ship, which crashed and blocked the Suez Canal, occurred on the season of sacrifice, which we mentioned earlier. So, um, I mean, there's a lot of interesting synchronistic dates and symbology came out with that. But that ship, by the way, was constructed, what's known as laid down, which is the start day of construction on the 25th of December.
Oh,
So it was the Evergreen was born on the 25th of December. It blocked the Suez Canal. If we're looking at that word, Suez is a reversal of the word Zeus. So again, lots of interesting things coming out of that. I mean, on other presentations, I've talked about that in more depth, but I'll
yeah.
give it a miss here. But
Just
we can
just before just before we move on to the next bit. So I mean Nimrod was it again? It's kind of a uh, would you say a sun symbol back in
yeah, yeah,
yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at the wings there. So, sorry, there's two things of note on this particular the image. So he's holding the branch. That to me looks like the Kabbalistic tree of life. Obviously, there's only five. What would be
yeah,
Sephiroth in there, but Sephiroth. But it does look a little bit like the Kabbalistic tree of life. And if we look at the wing symbolism, so there's only two showing there. But if that was like front facing, there'd be two upper segments of the wings and two lower segments of the wings,
yeah.
which you can clearly see there.
Mhm.
So again, there's seasonal references there.
Yeah,
With the reindeer, the evergreens. Uh, I think there's a
yeah,
sprig there
exactly.
as well. It's like towards the bottom of the image. I don't know
Yeah,
whether it's an evergreen sprig of anyway, but
yeah,
yeah. So again, this does go back way back in time. You know,
yeah, exactly. I mean, if you look into almost the entire mythology of Nimrod, his wife Semiramis, and his son Tammuz, I mean, upon Nimrod's death, Tammuz would lay gifts of offering on the winter solstice to his father. You know, and we do the same thing now. We kneel in front of our Christmas tree, the evergreen tree, to lay an offering, you know, our sacrament to the tree.
well, this particular Trinity that we're talking about here is also, again, it's also directly linked into Easter. But I don't, without going too far into that, I mean, we've got the Easter egg, we've got the Easter bunnies, things like that. That all it all dates back to that particular Trinity.
Mhm,
Um, and it's so Christmas and Easter is, the way that I look at it is one is the end and one is the beginning of. So one is the end of the cycle, one is the beginning of the cycle.
mhm.
And it's both effectively about the death and resurrection of the Son, under multiple allegories, which we're going to go into a bit more.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think it's almost it's almost foolish to discredit that allegory as being what
Mm.
this whole thing represents. But we're looking at Santa archetypes here. So number one, I'm not going to cover the whole load, but here's Woden. Interestingly, Woden's horse was called Sleipnir, as in Santa's sleigh. I mean, I don't know if that's where the word comes from, but it's very close. I mean, you can tell immediately. Well, it's just the dude. It looks like Santa Claus. Long red cape, big white beard, riding a white horse. Believe it or not, Sleipnir was associated with having 8 legs. Of course, 8 ties into Saturn, and again, that's something we'll be looking at a bit later on.
That's a cube of Saturn, isn't it? I think eight goes into the symbolism of the cube of
Yeah,
Saturn. At the
yeah,
north pole of the planet Saturn, you have the black cube, which is where
yeah,
Santa and his elves live. Which make of that what you want.
yeah. And
But
interestingly,
actually, what I was going to say,
mhm,
we're on about here. So this have we got Thor? We've got Thor. It's Odin. So this is Odin, isn't
yeah,
it? Well, Woden is Odin.
yeah,
So you got the Saxon version and the Norse version. So Odin was also the one-eyed god, right? So the one-eyed king. Going back, if you link that into Saturn as well, at the south pole of Saturn, you've got what's referred to as the Eye of Saturn, and it's the planet itself has got a hell of a lot of symbolism behind it. I mean, it's the Lord of the Rings as well, so you've got Sauron there. It really is quite
it's
fascinating when you
it's
look into
almost
it.
like it's almost so much symbology and so much of occult interest in that one particular planet alone. It's almost frightening to
Yeah.
open it up because it's that much you could talk about it. That could be a special 10-hour episode that in itself
A
couldn't.
10-hour episode on the occult symbolism of Saturn. But again,
Oh,
we can't. I know there's a lot of negativity around the whole Saturn being, this evil, malevolent planetary body, etc. But as with everything, and again, this was another question that was brought up, everything has a dual aspect. So to say that Saturn is just purely evil, it's all a dark, uh, body. It's all about this is where evil comes from, and it's having a malevolent influence on the stars and on the Earth and stuff like that. We have to remember astrologically, and physically that it still has a dual aspect, and some of that it's not all negative. So I just want to put that in there, just
mhm.
for anybody who's like, oh well, they're talking about evil things. It's not that simple. Things, reality is complex.
Yeah,
It has many aspects to it, and often you've got the dark and the light rolled into one. And Saturn is very good for allegorical storytelling, especially for this kind of stuff. I mean, we even see a
yeah,
lot of red in Saturn. You've got the red cape there around Santa and Odin and all these various other gods that we're talking about. And well, the planet Saturn it's got a lot of red in there, hasn't it? So it could
mhm,
be said that it's got a red cape, it's
yeah,
got a red covering, a red veil, even because
yeah.
it's supposed to be gaseous, it's like a gas giant, isn't it? So it's a veil.
So speak,
Yeah,
speaking of the color red, I mean, there's a couple of things I'll just mention on red because I think that's important to kind of understand. So Nimrod was associated with the color red. Semiramis was associated with the color white because she is the moon. Nimrod is the sun, and the sun, their son Tammuz was associated with the color green, as in evergreen. Essentially, the three colors of Christmas: red, green, and white. But another association here with well, let's talk about the planet Saturn just very briefly. The planet Saturn is associated with the number 8, but a pool ball. So the game of pool, the 8 ball is black. It's all black. Why? Because it's associated with Saturn, which again, cold and dark. The color black is you could say a negative color association. Um, but in terms of symbology, we see the symbology of Saturn on the London Underground. So the logo for the Underground is a symbol, is symbolic of Saturn. Saturn with the ring, circle with a line across it. So it represents Saturn. Why? Because it's the underground, and of course Saturn is the planet of the underworld. So there's loads of
oh, I
association
like that. Yeah.
here. But if we look at Woden, Woden was a wise old man. He was associated with the one eye, and he hung off a tree as for a number of days, like a Christmas bauble. And again, he had the eight-legged flying horse and the long beard. But
Would
that
it would
brings
it
us on to, oh
Oh,
yeah,
so I was just going to say, would it be fair to add at this point that the reason Odin was the one-eyed king, the one-eyed god, is because he sacrificed an eye in exchange for wisdom. So what that is
that's
telling us
exactly
is,
right. Yeah,
yeah, so it's dispelling ignorance. He made a sacrifice, um, in exchange, let's dispense with ignorance in favor of wisdom, because you can't get the other one without getting rid of the ignorant part of that. So
yeah,
I thought that was quite
yeah,
apt.
exactly. Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, it's similar to Horus as well because
Yeah,
Horus was also associated with wisdom through
yeah.
the pineal gland. The eye of Horus, of course, relating to the pineal gland. So yeah, it's a similar theme. This ties into Thor, and I'm sure you're a big fan of Thor, aren't you, with Thor's hammer?
Uh, well, I mean, if we're going by that, yeah, we could do that. As I put it
Yeah,
against the black t-shirt, interesting. But but yeah,
yeah.
I'm
Well,
a fan of the Marvel stuff as well. If we're being
yeah,
honest, it's not as been as good in recent years, but there you go.
yeah. Excellent. I mean, it's interesting that Thor has a hammer because, of course, a hammer can be used to smash somebody's head in, or it can be used to crack a walnut. Just like you mentioned earlier, the distinction between the duality of good and evil. Essentially, a tool is a tool; it can be used for a multitude of purposes. So Thor lived in the north, as did most of these Santa associations. Of course, Santa himself living in the North Pole. Why the north? Because it's overlooking. It's like the axis mundi that overlooks the world. So again, it's like the all-seeing eye in some respects. It's associated with the color red, with a chariot, and we can see here his chariot is pulled by two goats. Now this is interesting because the goats apparently are called Nasher and Cracker, as in Christmas cracker.
Curious. I like that.
Right, Bacchus. I've been under the spell of Bacchus for the last few days, which was why I'm a bit bleary-eyed. Bacchus is the god of revelry. And of course, you can see he's a bit of a portly chap here. He likes to drink. He likes to indulge, overindulge, you could probably say, which is what we do at Christmas. However, Bacchus, of course, Bacchus is a Roman god, is associated with celebrations, but he was born twice, according to legend, which is quite interesting. You know, as in,
Resurrected.
once died, resurrected, and he had a long beard. Well, they've all got long beards, in
Yeah.
fairness.
Well, I'm
You
working on
know.
it. Well, the god of the vine. So another interesting crossover is so Bacchus and Dionysus are also interlinked. So if you look at the mythology behind the pair of these, two deities, you've got the Greek version, the Roman version, the god of the vine, which links into Pan as well. So you got Pan also represented, drunken revelry and debauchery and things like that. And so you have the horny god, which you could link into the goats, which you could link into the reindeer and drinking and merriment and all kinds of weird symbolism, especially with
Yeah.
goats. So the god of the vine. Oh, have you noticed also the evergreen symbolism on his hair or his head?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
Nice
so
one.
yeah. So one of the other things I did notice, there's a lot of crossover, especially with Mercury or Hermes in
Hmm.
this. So Odin, as much as it's um, linked again. So we've got this Saturnalian type father of the gods figure, but there's also a crossover with Mercury for that, and with Hermes, and there is quite a lot of that going on in the old mythologies where they seem to be interlinked, or at least
Hmm.
yeah. So I'm going to go off topic if I go too far into that, but. It's just
That's easy
again, it's
done.
interesting to know. Plus, there's a lot of antler symbolism and horn symbolism that drinking from horns and
Yeah,
having horns on the head links with the Green Man, the tradition of the Green Man, which is basically nature,
yeah,
all the
yeah.
cycles of nature. So yeah,
All right. Well, that links into Jesus, but I was going to suggest, can we take a short interlude here,
can do certainly. Yeah. So are
and we'll
we?
come back to Jesus?
So are you wanting me to pause the video?
Yeah.
Do you need it? Do you need a quick break? So what I'll do then, I'll end the recording here, and then we'll just crack on with part two when you come back. So if you give me a couple of minutes to
Okay, man.
get the video downloaded, and then we'll crack on with part two, if that's all right with you.
Happy days, mate. Right.
Fantastic. Oh,
Back,
well, in that
back
case,
soon.
Steve, I'll see you back in about 15 minutes.
15? That's fine, mate. See you soon.
Brilliant. Cheers, mate.
Cheers.